So we got some news to get to. After a whole week of drama on Capitol Hill, the House and the Senate finally got it together and passed the third version of the funding bill, keeping the lights on in Washington, D.C. So what is in this funding deal that passed last night and is going to the president for him to sign it today? It funds the government through March 14th, 2025. It also includes roughly $100 billion in disaster relief and also includes a farm bill extension. What it does not include is the debt ceiling suspension that President-elect Trump was hoping for.
And there were reports last night that the president-elect is really steamed. The debt limit did not either get extended or canceled altogether because they would rather, the transition put something out the other day, increasing the debt ceiling, not great, but we would rather do it on Biden's watch. It's going to be a lot easier for him to do things like extend the tax cuts when he gets in if the Democrats are not, as Elizabeth Warren would say, hostage taking over the debt limit. But Elizabeth Warren is with Trump on this. It could happen.
Yeah.
It could happen.
It could indeed, but what's so significant about this past week is you and I were covering the Mar-a-Lago Trump transition all week long, was that we were clearly headed for an easy passage of that first version of the continuing resolution. And then you saw first Elon Musk weighing in saying, hang on.
This thing is huge.
And then President-elect Trump fully weighed in saying, this is not why I got elected. This is not what Americans want. They don't want these, as Trump says, Democrat giveaways in this 1,500-plus bill. And now you've gotten exactly what should have been the first option, which is a skinny bill, just get us to March. And then, obviously, he wanted the debt ceiling and you didn't get it. You've got members of Congress, though, like Andy Harris, conservative, weighing in on exactly putting into perspective what happened. Here's some of what he said.
Yeah, he posted this on X. Since President Trump's historic election to bring down spending, deficits, and inflation, the, quote, Republican-led House has initiated $300 billion in unpaid for new spending without even attempting offsets to prevent skyrocketing the deficit and debt. Future generations deserve better. I am now undecided on what House leadership should look like in the 119th Congress. Just want to get the numbers out there. 11 Senate Republicans and 34 House Republicans voted no. Democrats, by and large, were all in favor of supporting this.
And to his point about how now these House Republicans won't commit to what the leadership should be next time, Mike Johnson did the thing that Kevin McCarthy did that got him ousted. He pushed forward a spending bill with Democratic votes. That could be a fatal flaw. And I know that this is something, it happens every Christmas, except like one in the last 15 years. But there is a reason that this is different. The president-elect, the incoming president, is negotiating spending bills and then making the current president sign them.
Oh, and it's so true. And where has President Biden been throughout all of this? I was thinking yesterday that he was going to be up late at night because this passed in the House at 5:30, that it was going to go over to the Senate. They would have it for several hours, and then he was going to have to sign it into law right after it passed. But then the White House released a statement and said, he'll get to it in the morning. Are you kidding me?
And I think Harris's last point there about what House leadership looks like, while we're talking about this and the country feels like, oh, great, we're not going to have a shutdown, on January 3rd, as soon as the House comes back after the new year, the first thing they're going to deal with is whether or not to reelect Mike Johnson as Speaker again. And there's obviously some unhappy folks. However, in the last hour, we had Congressman Carlos Jimenez from Florida saying, to your question, Peter, that Speaker Johnson is the right man for the job. Here's what he said.
I'm going to be supporting Mike Johnson. Look, these are the cards that are dealt. If we had sufficient Republicans to pass some bills, we wouldn't need any Democrats, unfortunately. We can't seem to agree with each other. We had like 30 Republicans that did not vote for this bill. We only have like a 2 or 3 seat majority. And so when that happens and you have to get something done, and then all of a sudden you got to look over, oh, gee whiz, we have to pick up some Democrat votes, then the final bill isn't what we would like because we have to actually pick up some Democrat votes. And so it actually works against us. And so, yeah, I don't think so. These are the cards that are dealt. What we've learned from ousting Kevin McCarthy was that he was playing those cards about as well as anybody could, and Speaker Johnson's playing those cards about as well as anybody can.
Yeah, and being the House Speaker is just one of the hardest jobs on Capitol Hill. And even after the vote passed out of the House, he was interviewed, and he said that he spoke to the president-elect and he spoke to Elon Musk, and they're both pleased with the passing of this bill. And he joked that when he talked to Elon Musk, he's like, do you want to be speaker? You know, just a joke being like, this stuff is hard.
As we have learned over the last few weeks, Mike Johnson, it doesn't matter what anybody says. Mike Johnson is one Truth Social post away from
it's so true. Yeah, Republicans have a majority of just 4 seats when the next congressional term starts, 219 to 215. And 2 Republicans, Congressman Paul Gosar and Thomas Massie, have already said that they won't back him. I mean, we remember what the vote count looked like when Kevin McCarthy was going through this, where you have all the numbers on the side of the screen and you just watch and see who's going to vote how and what the fate of the Speaker of the House will be. That's what we're going to go through again in January. And, you know, Mike Johnson's getting a lot of criticism right now, but he was just doing his job. I mean, his job, he's got a huge body in Congress with everybody having different wants and needs, and he's got to wrangle it all with a very slim majority. So if Republicans wanted farm aid and they wanted some disaster relief, he's going to have to cut a deal with Democrats. And he was just trying to get it all through, and it ballooned in size. But they got it down, and they got it passed.
But we're not done hearing the last of President-elect Trump's frustration with working with the Democrats, because remember, his initial criticism was, we're not going to negotiate with the Democrats. We're going to do it our way. And there's no doubt that Washington is now Trump's town. And that's what Speaker Johnson's going to have to deal with. He just impacted it. And what you know, the other thing that's so fascinating, because I keep saying this, but Peter and I were covering the transition this week. When I was in Mar-a-Lago all week, literally the CEO of TikTok, Jeff Bezos, before that you had Zuckerberg, all of Silicon Valley's most powerful. Look, the center of the economic universe no longer runs through Wall Street or Silicon Valley. It's running through Mar-a-Lago right now. And any better example of how that's panning out, look at the donations to the inaugural committee. A lot of it coming from people like Zuckerberg that are cutting the $1 million checks.
Yeah, a lot of these rich guys that are going down to Palm Beach are writing big checks for the inauguration. So far, $200 million for this January 20th event. They're on track for 225. They are already at a record, beating Trump's first one, which was 107 million. Biden, 62 million. That was a COVID year.
And did you say this number? The Trump people think that the number will increase to 225 million. The target was 150 million. What this money is used for is essentially what they call inaugural events. But I think that these donations are just, it's a sign of people saying, we are excited about the incoming president. We have hope for the future. And there's a new Fox News poll that shows that 55% of people say that they are hopeful for the country's future today, as opposed to 45% who say no. That number was 53% said yes around the midterm elections, right after the midterm elections in 2022, and 43% said that they had hope for the future a year into Joe Biden's term.
And you look, this is how you get Trump. After a year almost of Biden, 43%. It's up 12 points now with Trump coming back in.
Yeah, look at that. 64% of people say that 2024 was a bad year for the country.
And then you've got a bad year for their family. 40% said it was a good year. 50%, half the country thinks that this was a bad year.
And, you know, if you could go back to that original graph, I hate to upset the producers, but really you saw from December 2021 to now, the numbers are literally flipped. When you talk about a direction of a country and how the country feels, you can see a literal flip in the opinions. 43 yes, 54 no, and 21. 55, 45 now. That's a significant shift.
Yeah, and it's just so clear. I mean, Donald Trump didn't just win the Electoral College. He also won the popular vote. And we were talking to people all across the country after the election. You just felt it. And he received votes from people who had never voted Republican before, because he was talking about what he called on the campaign trail common sense issues when it comes to the economy, when it comes to the border, crime, education. It's such a stark contrast to the threats to democracy on the other side and all the cultural, social things that have really passed when people about what people care about now. So people say that they're hopeful for the next 4 years, and it's evident in the polling and also the donations that Trump is getting as well.
And there was something really interesting to your point. The two of the Trump campaign managers just did an interview with Politico. they ran 1/3 fewer issue-based digital or TV ads than the Harris people ran. So what we are coming to see now is that the Harris people just never figured out what the point was.
Right, exactly. And according to the latest Wall
they
Street
lost.
Journal reporting, Joe Biden in office for 4 years was struggling the entire time
Didn't
and
help.
was very much sheltered by the staffers who were trying to basically be the
And the
president
reporters
himself.
that were
Yeah.
trying to talk to him.
That's right.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.